everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm your host, John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be wrapping up the original Jurassic Park trilogy with Jurassic Park 3 and its brand new Universal 4K Blu-ray with Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos that just came out. And at the very end of this video, we'll talk about the entire trilogy box set, and I'll let you know if it's worth your money. But before we get into all that, I like to give a quick film review, and today is no different. So if you don't want to know anything about Jurassic Park 3 and you're just here for that 4K Blu-ray review, you guys can skip ahead to that right now. So back in 2001, of course, we had to make a third film in the Jurassic Park trilogy. The Lost World just made too much money, but Steven Spielberg wasn't coming back. He said he kind of lost the heart a little bit while making The Lost World, and he wasn't going to come back for the third one. He did design the ride, though, that came out after The Lost World, which I think is pretty cool, but they hired Joe Johnston, who I think is a very underrated director. I think, he's kind of a plug-and-play guy, but he does have a certain style to him. This is the same guy who directed the first Captain America film, the first Avenger. I think he's very underappreciated. I always have felt like, as far as phase one of the MCU goes, the first Avenger is the best film in there, and it doesn't get enough love, even though that trilogy of films is great. Joe Johnston's the one that started all, and he directed this movie, and unfortunately he did face some obstacles. There was never a completed script while they were making this movie, which he wanted to quit about, but he's a young director. I think he was tapped by Steven Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy to direct this movie, so he probably just played ball the best he could. But man, not having a script really does show while watching this movie, because there is just plot holes galore. I made a comment on the artist formerly known Twitter the other day to a buddy of mine. He said that he thought that Jurassic Park 3 was the second best Jurassic Park film, and I'm thinking about it. I've always said Jurassic World was the second best. I'm like, you know what? You're right. Jurassic Park 3 does get a bad rep, and I guess I just hadn't seen it in years, and I rewatched it. I was like, nope, I'm wrong. Jurassic Park 3 is one of the worst in the entire franchise. I mean, I get it. It's taking a lot of moments from the original Jurassic Park. Even though John Williams doesn't do the score for this movie, we're still using the original Jurassic Park theme, which, does a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to nostalgia. You feel those moments. We're bringing back some of the characters from the first one. We're not bringing back Jeff Goldblum this time around. This time we're bringing around the last two actors who didn't appear in The Lost World. We're going to be bringing back Sam Neill and Laura Dern, even though Laura Dern clearly just showed up for about, maybe 2 days of work, because she's just in one location, even though she's in a couple of different scenes. It's really about getting Alan Grant back on the island this time. And of course, we have the island, and we have to get our characters to that island. So we set this up in the opening scene with some parasailing. We see that, something went terribly wrong, and it turns out the kid is left on the island. The adult that he's with, we're not too sure, but the kid turns out to be the son of William H. Macy and Tia Leone's characters, who were trying to fool Alan Grant to going to the island one more time. Hey, they have an unlimited amount of money. Let's do this. Let's go. You know what you're doing. We really need your help. Of course, it turns out they tricked him. They're just a regular middle-class family. Their son was there with Tia Leone's boyfriend, Ben, and, somehow he went missing. We're not going to report this, though, for whatever reason. Somehow they were able to parasail right next to the island with dinosaurs. I guess nobody's just even keeping an eye on this at all. Not one single soul, to the point that, they think that their son's still alive on this island. They're going to go there, and they're going to find themselves in this, ragtag group of people. One of them is actually Michael Jeter, who is a great character actor who would tragically pass away from AIDS not too long after this movie. This is one of his last movie roles, I believe, and, it's always good to see him pop up. He doesn't have a lot to do in this movie, but this movie, unfortunately, also, besides the terrible writing, because once they do find their son, the guy Ben, who was Tia Leone's, that was her boyfriend. They must have been close enough to the point that she trusts her boyfriend with her son parasailing. And they must have been close, right? Well, when he shows up dead, she's a little bit upset, but she's immediately okay to rekindle that old flame with William H. Macy. This really brought them together. Fuck Ben, right? Who cares about him that, he was taking care of your son and he died tragically. Now we'll forget about him. We got our son back. Let's get the old family back together. I mean, that's just horrible writing. But, of course, there are moments. I can't say there aren't moments in Jurassic Park 3. There are some very tense-filled moments. I do enjoy the moments with Sam Neill and the kid. That's clearly taken right out of Jurassic Park 1. Obviously it's also showing us that he's a better kind of father figure now, even though he left Laura Dern or whatever and she got married and had kids with somebody else, which Stupid. Come on. I mean, I guess that's just because we couldn't get her back on the island, so we had to write it this way. Again, just bad writing throughout the entire movie. And it shows that they didn't have a script. That's the biggest flaw of this movie, is the screenplay. Because the actors, they do a good enough job. I am not a Tia Leone fan. I have never been, ever since, like, Bad Boys 1. She just has, like, a very whiny kind of, like, acting style. And it really doesn't mesh well with me. And, you know, William H. Macy is William H. Macy. He just can always fall in the characters, despite the fact he's a very distinct-looking person with a distinct voice. He somehow is just that good of an actor that no matter what they give him, he could be good enough with. Same thing with Sam Neill. You know, they could do some heavy lifting. Like I said, the score does some heavy lifting, but it's not enough to cover up the flaws in this movie. It's better than some of the Jurassic World movies almost just by default, but I don't think that Jurassic Park 3 is a great movie. It's just a movie with some good moments, and it's clearly just a cash grab to get more money, and it worked because the movie made over $300 million at the box office in 2001. The name still carried some value. That's why I'm very surprised it took so long for us to get the Jurassic World. It makes me think that, you know, maybe Steven Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy kind of saw the writing on the wall, like, all right, let's like pump the brakes here for a little while. I think we've kind of lost our way, and it's going to start to devalue the original Jurassic Park, which is just an all-time classic film. But of course, money is money, and eventually they would have that Jurassic World trilogy that's still going to this very day, because we will have a fourth film in the Jurassic World franchise coming out. I mean, it might already be out by the time you guys see this, Jurassic World Rebirth, which, of course, I will probably end up seeing in theaters because, you know, my love for the original film still keeps me going back, even though I have never enjoyed a sequel to the original Jurassic Park, even as close as much as the original, and unfortunately, Jurassic Park 3 does fall into that category as well. But hey, let's talk about this 4K Blu-ray and see if that's worth your time and money.
They set a trap. They actually set a trap.
And this will be the third and final review for Jurassic Parks here on the channel on 4K Blu-ray, because I didn't get that World 4K Blu-ray trilogy. It just didn't seem worth the money, just because the only upgrade that you are getting is to Jurassic World. And, you know, like I said, not the biggest fan of the sequels, but hey, I wanted to see Jurassic Park on 4K Blu-ray, so I got The Lost World, and I got Jurassic Park 3, and I'll be comparing it to the original 4 films in this box set like we've talked about before. You know, this one, I like it. I like the original 4 films. Those are the only ones that received upgrades. They got the Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision upgrades, while the last 2 films, unfortunately, they're just the same disc repackaged, and that's why I didn't feel like I needed to grab those, but I really wanted the original, so I got the, you know, this 4K trilogy box set of Jurassic Park. But of course, when you come inside, yet again, like I said in the previous reviews, good interior artwork. Jurassic Park 3 is right here, so you got to take the Lost World out, unless you're crazy and you don't, just to pop out the third disc, because, you know, you get that little bit of flex. Don't love it when they do that, but, you know, they had to fit into the Steelbook somehow. Just 4Ks, no Blu-rays, so of course it's not a thicker Steelbook or anything like that. I've told you guys I'm not a huge fan of the artwork on there. It's fine. It's just, you know, I really prefer what they were doing before. I get that people don't love those Universal box sets just because of the way they slide the discs in, and I don't love that either. Believe me, I just rewatched Back to the Future. It has a similar box set. I don't love sliding that out. You're either going to get a scratch or a fingerprint, and it's a little bit annoying, but I really wish they could find a better way, because I love all the artwork we get inside that, and especially compared to this Steelbook trilogy. You know, the Steelbook was doing the heavy lifting because the Steelbook collectors, but I actually prefer those fat boxes, and wish they would have kept that. And unfortunately, when it comes to Jurassic Park 3, a lot like the first 2 films, we get all the extras that were previously released, which I do appreciate. Really glad that they popped those on the disc, and, you know, for a movie like Jurassic Park 3 to get this many extras, it just speaks to the volume of, like, the extras we used to get on film, because I talked about Lethal Weapon pretty recently. Lethal Weapon is one of my all-time favorite films. I think it's a classic of the 1980s. That movie got 11 minutes of extras in 2025. Given these aren't new extras on here, but still, the amount of extras for Jurassic Park 3, which is not a beloved film, to have this many extras, you know, we used to be a society, didn't we? So, you know, that's pretty cool. Can't complain about the extras. Then, of course, you know, you go into the audio and the visual upgrade. That's really what people are here to see. Is this a big upgrade over the previous release? I would say out of the trilogy, this is the weakest release when it goes to 4K Blu-ray. Even though the audio upgrade from DTS:X to Dolby Atmos is noticeable, I would say that's definitely the biggest jump you'll see. I was going through the action sequences, and they just have more pump when it comes to the Dolby Atmos. And, of course, you know, the bass is good on the DTS:X, but they pump it up a little bit more on here. You know, it's just, they remixed it much, much better. This is how it should have been on the initial release, even though the DTS:X track, again, through all 3 movies, They're not bad tracks. They really aren't. It's just this is improving on it. Like I said in my Lost World review, these are like mid-generation updates. Like, it's not a full-blown new scan. The audio, you can go in and do whatever you want, and I think that's why the Dolby Atmos track is phenomenal. It's just that when you get to the visual upgrade, it's definitely the weakest of the three. A lot of that is because this is the most muted film when it comes to the colors in general. It's just never been a very colorful film. I said The Lost World was a muted film. Well, this, it's even more muted. Very much of the time of 2001. It's just very plain, very cool looking, you know, lots of greens, and it's unfortunately when you upgrade it, even with the Dolby Atmos, you can't fix how the original film looked, in my opinion. So yeah, it is a noticeable upgrade, but it's not one like in comparison to like the original Jurassic Park where it's very obvious. You have to kind of pause the moments to really look at it. Like when one of the dinosaurs has their mouth open, like the red on the inside, if you were to compare that to the previous release Blu-ray, which looked flatter in my opinion, you know, you can see that they clearly went in and they did some work. It's just like I said previously, it is the same exact scan, just with new color grading, so don't expect the world's biggest update. Don't expect this to look like a 2025 brand new 4K Blu-ray scan, just because it's impossible. Unless they rescan it, it's never going to look like that. And I know that's going to disappoint some people, but you know, out of the films we've seen so far, this is the one that really let me down the most when it comes to the 4K Blu-ray upgrade. I get it, it's Jurassic Park 3. Maybe it got the least amount of love, or maybe it's just the source material. I can't say for sure, but the visuals on this one, they really let me down the most. And if if they were separated out, I definitely wouldn't grab Jurassic Park 3 on 4K Blu-ray, just because this one got the least amount of upgrade compared to, at least The Lost World and Jurassic Park, in my opinion. It's just a little bit disappointing to say, because again, they kind of forced you to buy this entire trilogy on 4K Blu-ray. And that's disappointing because they know that people really just wanted Jurassic Park. They could have separated them out, and they will be separated out at some point. I can almost guarantee it. Universal is not going to ignore those money signs. There'll be a complete box set once Rebirth comes out. The whole spiel. It's all coming. But how is this Jurassic Park 3 4K Blu-ray on its own? On its own, I'm still going to give it a 7 out of 10 because it's not the worst. It is an upgrade over the previous release 4K. It's just this one is the biggest disappointment to me. But as far as the entire trilogy goes, would I recommend you guys buying the Jurassic Park trilogy on 4K Blu-ray with Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos? Honestly, no. I would wait for a sale on this one. Wait until they separate it out so you can pick the movies you want. I don't think the Jurassic Park franchise deserves to have it all boxed in the one big box set unless you absolutely love it. I've always said I feel like the original is just an all-time classic. I really just wanted to upgrade that one. I'm kind of glad I rewatched The Lost World. I enjoyed my time with it. Jurassic Park 3, not so much. We got the new Jurassic World movie coming out. I'll check it out. But for me, I do feel like this was a little bit of a cash grab from Universal to get you to pick up all 3 movies so they can charge a little bit more money. They did go in and do the work, so I can't say they didn't. But, we pulled the Blu-rays out for $60. Yeah, they're kind of taking advantage of people who love Jurassic Park and who love Steelbooks. And, it feels a little bit dirty to me. So I can't say I recommend this 4K trilogy completely, just because I do think people will be overall pretty let down. The price is not, not perfect. But if this ever goes on sale, which I don't think it will because these are limited 4K Blu-ray releases, so eventually they will get separated out and put into new box sets, and then you could see those scans. But I would say definitely hold off on that because I think you'll be a little bit let down, unless you're like me and you just want to see an upgrade to Jurassic Park. And that's what got me to check these out, if I'm being honest with you guys. It's the original Jurassic Park. But I'd say pump the brakes, wait and see how you feel, and eventually these will get separated out. It might be like a year, but hey, hold on to that previously used 4K Blu-ray until then, and then you know what? You'll appreciate it in time when you can save yourself a little bit of money. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it here for me in another episode of Let's Talk. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, don't forget that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel membership, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel like Ben Rondo and John Doe Juggalo, you could do that. Or you can become a channel director like Kevin Kruger, Nicholas Head, Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, and then, of course, Uncle V. Or you can even become a channel bankroll member like Mr. Smelly Potato. But you know what, guys? Don't worry about it if you have no money to throw away. I just hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.